Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
This year, Mayor Sadiq Khan has published a roadmap to, as he calls it, transform London into the smartest city in the world. By smart, what he actually means is connected. It sets out a future with a much greater integration of technology, which he claims will make London a better place for its residents. However, with serious questions about the increasing influence of big tech on our lives, is a smart city what we really want? Jamie Bartlett, who writes on technology, culture and social media, has some doubts.
Cities all over the world are currently engaged in a smart frenzy, installing sensors, connecting everything to a network and collecting data. In London, there'll soon be sensors on lampposts collecting data on air quality. Proximity devices will trigger information when you pass by, and smart meters will measure energy use. We're sleepwalking into a world where everything is going to be chipped up by default. According to the official documents, this will make the city more livable. Companies and governments will be able to use this data cornucopia to develop new services or to improve old ones. But will we really be smarter when every bin, lamppost, traffic light and shopfront is connected to the internet? I can certainly see some benefits. I'd probably be lost right now if it wasn't for Citymapper. Parking apps are a godsend. More data might help reduce traffic and improve energy efficiency. But what are we giving in exchange for all these benefits? Most obviously, control. Private companies must be giddy with excitement. Imagine the marketing and advertising possibilities when a company knows your location, who you're with, where you're going, maybe even your facial expression. We're already walking data mines. Android phones send almost 1,000 data points about you back to their servers every single day. No doubt businesses will be after this data, and when they are, we should have the right to know exactly what they're planning and be able to say no, especially if it might identify us personally. Because if this is going to become just another way for companies to collect data so they can sell us more unnecessary stuff, we should probably just pull the plug now. There are protections, of course. And to his credit, the mayor has included a board member that specialises in data ethics. But as we've repeatedly seen, when it comes to data, protections don't always work that well. Will the police be able to resist demanding access to all this information? What happens when powerful artificial intelligence is better than it is now at predicting, filtering, identifying? Do you know the real leaders in building smart cities? It's not London, it's in China, where it's an excellent way to control the population. In the end, our obsession with turning everything into a data point might change the way we understand our city, and not necessarily in a good way. Imagine a park bench where an old woman comes to feed the birds once a week, something that's incredibly important to her. In our gleaming, snazzy smart city, she's reduced to just another single data point. And footfall analysis might decide that this bench needs to be demolished to make way for yet another pop-up cafe that can drive more traffic. Obviously, we don't want to ditch all the tech, and the mayor's plan is really well intentioned. There's lots of great initiatives to help the digitally excluded, for example. But a smart city is not an end in itself, it's just a means to something else. So we must proceed very carefully, being mindful of business interests, making sure we don't forget what really matters, and always allowing us citizens to say switch it off if we want. Otherwise, we might end up building the world's smartest city, but it will be really rather dumb.
Well, we're joined by Jamie and the City Hall's Theo Blackwell, London's first Chief Digital Officer. Welcome both. Jamie, I'm thinking as a Londoner, if I can get about the city more easily, if I can avoid traffic jams, if my Wi-Fi is better, those are practical gains. Your fears are kind of theoretical fears down the line, aren't they?
Well, they're theoretical fears, but they're definitely ones that I think over the last year we've really seen realised in different areas. We've seen how much more vulnerable our internet devices are to Russian interference. We've seen how interested companies are in collecting information about us all the time. We've seen how much more powerful computing calculations are getting all the time, and the way that will be used to analyse and understand us. So this is not a criticism of Theo and his team, because I think the approach that London's taken is actually really good. It's all about open data, making it easy for us and making it convenient, the benefits you talk about. But I think given what we've seen this year, it's very important as we move forward to really focus on the security side of it and the privacy side of it.
Can you actually do anything about it? Because surely the whole history of modern technology, IT, has been increasing access to data.
Yeah.
And that is the trade-off you have to make. If you want convenience, then there has to be more data available for people providing services.
Yeah, but you can also do that within a framework that allows citizens to opt out, can ask for their data back, can have restrictions on how it's used.
How practically do you do that? Because you talked about pulling the plug. So how would I ensure that a company couldn't take advantage of knowing where I walked from, you know, A to B every day?
Well, let's say, for example, a local authority has got access to a lot of very useful footfall data and traffic data, and a company comes to the local authority and says, we'd like to purchase that off you because this is big industry. You know, this is a really important area that companies are investing in all the time, and we want to use that to market products to people. There has to be some mechanism by which the local authority asks us if we're happy with that.
OK, Theo, let me just ask you first off. You are sort of the man who's meant to oversee this smart city master plan. I have to say, I read the document and it read a bit like a sort of BBC strategy document. It was full of grand visions, incomprehensible words, in really simple, practical terms. What difference is it going to make for Londoners to their everyday lives? Some simple, concrete examples.
I think we've already seen the benefits of us opening up the data that's collected every day in the city. That's enabled the development of many, many applications which people use on their mobile phone. It allows them to travel around the city, make choices. It allows the city to plan, and that's a really, really important thing.
For me, and everyone sitting around this table, what difference is it actually going to make practically to our everyday lives? What's going to get better?
Well, I think it enables us to plan our public services better. One of the points about a smart city that I think was made there, that it's all about corporate control. Our plan is about taking the uses of technology and putting them into the hands of the citizens. It shouldn't just be private companies and their relationships with consumers that benefit from technology.
About access to information?
It's about access to information. It's about designing services better. We're adopting the latest techniques to put users right at the centre of how we design public services. This is a radical new approach, which means a break from the past, but allows us to not just have static public services that change every 2 or 3 years, but actually services that change according to people's needs. And that's a really, really significant break from the past of how we've done public services.
But is this just talk? Because at the end of the day, there's no sort of money going into this, am I right? It's not that City Hall is going to be doing anything, it's going to be trying to enable others to provide new facilities.
City Hall is investing in 2 crucial initiatives that will bring things together. Firstly, we've invested a large amount of money in data sharing between London's 32 boroughs. We've invested £400,000 this year in data sharing, and then we also have the Residual City Data Store, which is renowned across the world for its open data work, over 700 data sets, and TfL's work as well. So enabling data sharing between 32 boroughs is absolutely crucial to that. And secondly, we're setting up a new way for public services to collaborate with each other and the technology community, not big tech, not just big tech. It will be also mobilising the tech community right across London, large and small, and that's a really important point.
Jamie, who holds the ring here? Because I'm beginning to think that big tech is a lot bigger now than big government, and we've seen it in a whole load of areas where governments tried to, for example, tax some of these huge multinational IT companies. Are we now reaching the stage where, for all the efforts of City Hall and others, actually they're bit part players in a game where the big tech companies are the dominant driving forces?
Well, I think that's the big struggle at the moment between governments and large technology companies, especially international ones, which are obviously much harder to regulate. And Actually, I'd say in the last 6 months, governments are starting to push back, and you see them being a bit bolder, a bit more aggressive. You can see it in the select committees that are kind of taking them on.
Something like the Marriott Hotel saga, which we've just seen, where 500 million people's data seems to have been accessed.
This is the thing, I suppose, that worries me. There are great benefits to collecting more data all the time and connecting things up. However, the more you connect things up, the more vulnerable they become to being hacked. And there's no doubt in my mind that in the coming 3-5 years, we are going to see devices, our traffic lights, or bits of even critical national infrastructure, which will be hacked into. And I don't think we are quite ready for that yet. I don't think the government's ready for that yet. I don't think the City of London is ready for that yet. And so I hope we can focus much more on this. This is going to get worse before it gets better.
OK, well, let me bring our politicians in then. I mean, Theresa Pearce, from your perspective, how does government even begin to hold the ring here?
It's very difficult because the issue with technology is it moves very quickly and government and politics moves very slowly. So we're playing catch up in a way here. But I think...
I mean, do you think government can actually catch up, or it's an impossible task?
They have to, I think they have to, because exactly as just been said, this is a threat to security in many respects. And data is really important, because without data you can't plan, as has been said. And the work that TfL does on the trips people make and where they go and how they make them is really important for practical things like buses. And I love technology, but my thing about technology is I want it to do what I want it to do, whereas often it tries to tell me what I want to do. Right. So it's who controls the data and who controls the technology.
Let me suggest, Theresa Villas, one thing which government could do is inflict a bit of financial pain on companies if they wanted access to all this information. And we have seen governments so far being, frankly, feeble in trying to tax some of these massive multinational global IT companies. So isn't that sort of stage one of government getting serious?
We do need further action on making sure these digital giants pay their taxes. We've seen progress in the budget. One of the problems with that is to fix that problem effectively, we do need global action, because essentially it derives from the way the international tax system works. But we're making real progress. The OECD and the G20 are working on that. So that is one way in which the governments absolutely do need to make sure that they get tough on big digital businesses.
But let me just ask you, in a city like London, millions of people, huge sort of potential for companies, could you envisage a situation where you'd actually have a sort of London tech tax for these companies who want access to all this data because of the potential for their own profits, etc.? Do you think that might be an area to go down?
If companies want access to this data, absolutely. If they're going to get that, they should certainly pay. But giving them any access is obviously subject to strict privacy rules. We have tough privacy rules on the handling of data in this country. We do need to ensure that they're effectively enforced. And also, another big risk here, as shown from your video on this, is cybersecurity. The smarter we get, the more connected we get, the greater the risk of cyber attack. So if the Mayor wants to take a lead on this, I think he and the Metropolitan Police should have a big focus on making sure that as devices get smarter, they get safer.
I think there are a number of things that are happening. The Metropolitan Police is doing a lot of work with businesses to raise their awareness about cyber risks. We're coming out with a whole new approach to cybersecurity. There's some really interesting initiatives that we can learn from abroad. I mean, New York's public Wi-Fi system is protected from cyber attack, protects the public from cyber attacks funded by a levy on the financial institutions. The Attorney General put that in.
When are we actually going to see some of these changes you've talked about? Because, I mean, you know, at a very simple level, we've heard a lot of talk about 5G, but it doesn't seem to be happening any time soon in the UK. I mean, it's happening in other countries, in Korea and Japan.
It's happening
in
pilots.
Those sort of things?
The Mayor is using planning powers, which will come out in the draft London plan, to radically increase connectivity in London. And there are a number of, really quite serious...
So when does this all happen?
This will happen over the next 2 or 3 years. You mentioned lampposts. There are about 600,000 lampposts in London. They potentially could be the future electric vehicle charging points, the small cells for 5G. We're leading a project for the European Commission on how we work together with our fellow European cities, on how we create a market to scale these new technologies. Okay. But the most important thing here is that citizens need to be consulted and they need to be part of the design. And that's the main pivot of our Smarter London Together strategy. We're putting citizens right at the heart of this.
OK, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks very much, Theo. Thanks, Jamie.